didn't say start. Okay, I guess we will. Well, hey Brian, can you turn that down just a little bit, this light here? Ah, great, thank you. Perfect. Well, welcome everybody to the Experimental Aircraft Association Chapter 1685 Speaker Series event for spring of 2024. It's co-sponsored by the Georgia Military College. And if everyone, before we get started, would please just reach down onto your cell phones and go ahead and turn them to the OFF button so that they don't go off while we're in the presentation. So I am retired Colonel Andy Milani, U.S. Army, and I will be your narrator today. I was voluntold by the rest of my EAA colleagues that I would be getting the honors to do this today, and it is an honor. So I certainly appreciate being able to do this, especially for someone so renowned as CW5 Doug England. Well, I'd like to start with a big thank you to Lieutenant General Caldwell. Sir, do I see you out there? Okay, thank you, sir, for allowing us to co-host with you and bringing your student body here with us. It is awesome that we have so many people that are the exact target audience that need to see this pitch with W5 Doug England to inspire them to careers in aviation, hopefully in the military. So also a big thank you to the GMC staff, especially the gentleman in the back up there. They have done wonders with putting these briefings together. And sir, thank you for this elegant theater here. This is amazing that our little EAA chapter is able to use something as grandiose as this, so thank you for that. Well, what I'd like to also do is give a special welcome to Jim Wolfgang and his wife, Marilis. He is the chairman of the Baldwin County Regional Airport Advisory Committee, and also to Colonel John Milani, the other Colonel Milani in the room today. He's my 92-year-old father, and he's still going strong. So how about a hand for the Lieutenant General Caldwell, GMC, and these folks. As a bit of coincidence, my dad served in the brigade that General Caldwell's father commanded in Vietnam. So how's that for coincidental? And by the way, Jim's wife, Marilis, where'd you go, Marilis? She is our official photographer for the chapter, and she'll be out there tomorrow, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Before we introduce our speaker today, we would like to tell you a bit about EAA, or the Experimental Aircraft Association. Some of you may have heard about the Oshkosh Air Show, the biggest air show in the world. It's held in the little town of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and has, as part of the EAA organization, has over 200,000 members. But our local chapter here, we're not near that just yet. We're aspiring to that. But we draw our lineage from EAA's national organization up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And they are an international organization that represents virtually every aspect of recreational aviation. So the video I'm about to show you captures the essence of EAA. Let me see if this works.
I've loved aviation for as long as I can remember. I stop and look up every time I hear a plane passing overhead. Aviation is part of who I am. I love the adventure, the skill, the knowledge, and the camaraderie of sharing my experiences with others who feel the same way. It's more than a hobby. It's my passion and lifestyle. And that's why I've made EAA, the Experimental Aircraft Association, my aviation home. While my love of flying is personal, it's also universal. More than 200,000 EAA enthusiasts from around the world share the spirit of aviation. It's the beating heart of who we are. The exclusive resources EAA provides its members fuels my hunger for aviation, because EAA offers benefits that matter to me. Especially at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh, the world's greatest aviation celebration. Each summer, I plan my trip to Wisconsin, the home of EAA and its annual fly-in and convention. Here, I meet old friends, make new ones, learn new skills, see amazing aircraft and unique displays you can't find anywhere else. I watch jaw-dropping air shows and immerse myself in the entire experience. It's truly aviation's family reunion. Throughout the rest of the year, I stay connected and enjoy the activities of my local EAA chapter. I participate in hands-on activities and share the spirit of aviation by introducing people to flight through the Young Eagles program and other EAA flight experiences. I also can't wait for each monthly issue of EAA Sport Aviation magazine to arrive. It's the best source for learning about what's happening in the world of recreational aviation. EAA helps me understand where aviation has come from and where it's headed. That's because EAA is both a steward of aviation's heritage and supports the innovation paving the way for generations to come. EAA founder Paul Poborezny was fond of saying, "The airplanes bring us together, but it's the people that keep us coming back." I couldn't agree more. If you build, if you fly, if you dream, there's a place for you. I am EAA. We are EAA. Welcome home.
How about that? Okay. So Chapter 1685 is committed to building a local organization of aviation enthusiasts to help inspire local youth to careers in aviation. We're talking about careers in civil or military aviation as pilots, A&P mechanics, air traffic controllers, operations specialists, aircraft builders, and many other tangential aspects of aviation. That's our commitment to our local community. If you or someone you know has an interest in aviation, would like to join our EAA chapter, please grab a brochure out in the vestibule up there, and you can also find us online using keyword EAA or Chapter 1685 EAA, and it'll drive you right to us in a sign-up form, okay? You don't have to be a member to attend these events, as is evidenced by today, but supporting our efforts would certainly be greatly appreciated. This weekend is also our chapter's first Young Eagles Day. You saw that in the video there. Tomorrow we will be conducting 27 Young Eagle discovery flights. Now it's already been subscribed. In fact, it was sold out, if you will, within the first 48 hours that we had the website open. But not to despair. I know there's more than 27 of you in the room here. You have to be the ages between 8 and 17. But the next time we do a Young Eagles event, and we'll try to do one this fall, we'll open that up and try to get as many of you up in the air as possible for your discovery flights. Our member volunteers, they provide their own aircraft to take these young kids aloft to see the local community from the air. In fact, they will be flying over the lake, across the dam, down the river with GMC out the right door, down around the old hospital, and then back up around the lake, and then back into the airport on their discovery flight. So they get to see the local community from the air in something that they'll never forget, their first ride in a small airplane, and the wonder of the visuals that they will see. And the reason we do that is to inspire the youth, but also to look at the smiles on their faces, especially with the parents there to retrieve them as they get out of the aircraft, the photographs that they take with their parents and the pilot that flew them after their flight. It's monumental. It's burned in their minds. And so through that program, we hope to inspire the youth of this community to want to pursue careers in aviation. So additionally, our local Boy Scout Troop 124, sponsored by the Milledgeville First Methodist Church, which is led by Mr. Mark Craddock, They'll be selling breakfast sandwiches, hot dogs, and drinks at the airfield tomorrow during this Young Eagles event. All of you are welcome to come out and watch this. We'll have, one of our members is flying a Yak-18. It's a former Soviet aircraft. It'll be on display at the airfield there, and all of you will be able to get up close and personal with it and get to see something that was built, I believe, in 1942. And it's a tremendous experience to be around that kind of an aircraft. So again, all of you are welcome to come out to the airfield. Probably the best time will be a little after noon to see these things and the displays that we'll have, and it'll be a wonderful time. I would be remiss if I did not introduce our chapter president, retired Emirates Airlines Boeing 777 Captain Kalina Milani, who just happens to be my wife, someone that is passionate about aviation, but more importantly, passionate about encouraging the youth of our community and inspiring them to careers in aviation. She and Jim Wolfgang were the impetus behind creating the chapter here in Milledgeville a little over a year ago, and it's through their leadership and vision that we were able to start Chapter 1685, which is called Links to Dreams. And so here we are with our first really large speaker event. And again, it's a tribute to Jim and Kalina for their vision to create this organization. A few of our EAA Chapter 1685 members are here with us tonight, so could all of them please stand up and wave your arms so that we can see you if you are a member of the EAA Chapter 1685? Okay, there you go. We have a couple of Navy veterans amongst them, Tom Osborne and Lieutenant Commander Phil Webb. I don't know if he made it here yet. He was the one flying that Yak-18 up from Pensacola. We also have Edward Scheller. I think you guys are familiar with him at GMC. He used to work here. He is United States Marine Corps retired. Also, we have Kirk Bauer and Mark Hall, who are aircraft builders. And so they are literally building aircraft in their garages. Thank God they have understanding wives that when they get told they got to park their car out in the weather, so you guys are my heroes for doing that. I very much appreciate it. And we also have all the way from Brazil, Roberto Hornung, who is actually an instructor over at the Baldwin County High School and in aviation, and he is our event coordinator for the Young Eagles Day tomorrow. Roberto, you can raise your hand there. So there we go. So what I'd like to do now is transition to why we're all here. And so with that, let me find my place. I would like to introduce retired Chief Warrant Officer 5, Doug England. Oh, stop. Many of you don't know what a warrant officer is. You know, when I was a young second lieutenant, I didn't either. They were always the ones screwing with me. And it took me a while to figure out what their purpose in life was, and I thought it was just to mess with the lieutenants. But a warrant officer in the services, because not just the Army has warrant officers, they are in between a non-commissioned officer and a commissioned officer. They are the technicians. So they're maintenance technicians, they're medical technicians, they are supply logistics technicians. And in Doug's case, it's a pilot technician. They provide the continuity to an organization with a specific skill set that you can't get in the NCO ranks with their promotions, moving people up and out of your organization. The warrant officer technicians are there to provide that, and they do that with aplomb. So let's see. So warrant officers progress from W1 to W2 to W3 to W4, and in rare cases to W5. And in Doug's case, he was one of those select few that was able to make W5. And let me tell you, making W5 in the Army is harder, let me emphasize that, harder than making general officer, just by the numbers. Doug was, his last job in the Army was the Chief of Talent Management at the Army, so sometime during the question and answer, some of you might want to ask him that or see him afterwards to ask him how many W5s there actually are and how difficult it is to make W5. So Doug's biography was in the announcement for tonight's event, but to more succinctly capture the high points of Doug's career, I thought I'd show that video that started a little prematurely over here. It was a video put together by the Army Aviation Association of America. You may recognize the voice of David Hartman. He used to be, I think, Good Morning America. He narrated the video for them, and so it tells a little bit about the speaker today, so I'll go ahead and run that.
Doug England is the son of an Air Force veteran. He was born in September 1968 on Bergstrom Air Force Base. Enlisting right out of high school in July 1986, Doug became a UH-1 Huey crew chief with assignments in Germany and Fort Benning, and flew on combat missions in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. After a stint in the Colorado Army National Guard, Doug came back on active duty, became a warrant officer, and graduated from flight school, becoming a CH-47 pilot. He was assigned to Korea, and then, based in Germany, flew combat missions in Bosnia and Kosovo. In May 1998, he joined the 160th SOAR Airborne and quickly became flight lead and standardization officer for A Company, 2nd Battalion. On October 19, 2001, almost immediately after the terror attacks on 9/11, Doug was the fully mission-qualified pilot in the lead aircraft of a force of 10 helicopters and 65 fixed-wing aircraft into Afghanistan on the longest helicopter air assault in U.S. military history. Logging more than 14 hours, refueling in flight 4 times, and covering more than 1,400 nautical miles, Chief Warrant Officer 5 England earned his first Distinguished Flying Cross for his performance on this grueling mission. In February 2011, with 5 others, Doug began planning this country's most highly classified mission in the War on Terror. After 2 months of planning and rehearsal, Doug became overall flight lead in Operation Neptune Spear. On May 1, 2011, he successfully led the assault force through a fully integrated and highly sophisticated air defense network, arrived at the objective undetected, and delivered the ground forces to the target. Flawlessly reacting to multiple contingencies, including the loss of an aircraft, his actions allowed the ground force to complete its extremely high-risk mission, ensuring accomplishment. While returning the assault force to friendly territory, they came in direct conflict with other non-U.S. aircraft. He took evasive action and returned all U.S. forces to safety. For his heroism, Doug was awarded his first Silver Star. On September 14, 2011, while piloting a Chinook and leading 5 others over a known area of densely populated insurgent activity, Doug heard a distress call from Special Operations Forces under heavy enemy fire. 1 soldier had been badly wounded and needed immediate evacuation. Sending 3 of his Chinooks back to base, Doug and another Chinook flew to the incident site. As the other Chinook lifted the wounded soldier, and as both Chinooks took enemy fire, Doug flew in a tight circle just feet above the ground, drawing fire to his aircraft, while his crew members suppressed the enemy fire with miniguns and M240 machine guns. The wounded soldiers were safely evacuated to critical care, ensuring their survival. For his courage and heroism, and acting in utter disregard for his own well-being, Doug was awarded his second Silver Star. Mr. England has trained and mentored more than 1,000 aviators and enlisted crew members, and has met and briefed all levels of the chain of command, from the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense on down. For his last position in the Army, he worked directly for the Secretary of the Army as Senior Warrant Officer Advisor for Talent Management. CW-5 England has flown and logged over 7,000 hours in fixed and rotary wing aircraft, with 34 combat tours, executing over 2,500 missions, many times returning in helicopters riddled with holes. Doug has been awarded 3 Distinguished Flying Crosses and was the only active duty U.S. aviator with 2 Silver Stars during the global war on terror. With unwavering mission focus, no aviator in the history of the 160th has taken on more responsibilities and achieved a higher level of excellence than CW-5 Doug England. Soldier, officer, aviator, and special operations warrior, standardization officer, flight lead, and instructor pilot, he has demonstrated professionalism and superior tactical and technical competence on some of our nation's most classified missions. His impact on Army aviation, and indeed the history of the nation, cannot be overstated.
So I don't know if everybody picked up on that, what the narrator said, but at the time of his retirement, he was the most decorated military aviator on active duty. That includes all the other services. So, in fact, if he was wearing his uniform today, the medals would go up to his shoulder, and there would be a little footnote up there that says, "To be continued" on the other side. The man has incredible list of decorations. I think you heard some of them there, but let me just sum them up before I turn it over to Doug. Distinguished Service Medal, 2 Silver Star Medals, the Legion of Merit, 3 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 2 Bronze Star Medals, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, and 9 Air Medal with Valor Device, numeral 8. So he is an incredible hero of mine, and I welcome the fact that he has come here, and we are so grateful that he's blessed us with his presence here in Milledgeville, Georgia. General Sherman would be proud. Okay, so without further ado, CW-5 Doug England.
Well, good evening. I first have to ask, have you guys eaten already? Okay, I just want to make sure, because if you hadn't, I'll make this very short so you can get something to eat. But I appreciate this. I appreciate it is a pleasure to share some of the stories with all of you that are up-and-coming leaders in today's military and in the future. You are the future. We're the past. And so it is up to us now to explain what it was and lessons learned for you. And truly that if you didn't know what a warrant officer was, maybe I can help out a little bit. And yes, the number one duty is to create havoc for our commanders throughout the battlefield. So I appreciate it. General Caldwell, thank you for the invitation for tonight. And so please take notes or questions. I'll have some Q&A session. I want to call on a couple missions. So the 2 that were highlighted there, I'm going to peel the curtain back just a little bit. And there are still many things that we can't talk about for very good reason, because there are women and men in uniform today that are performing things so we can sleep soundly at night tonight, because they are bringing the fury to our enemy every night. And as you see it's in the news, be rest assured that all branches of military are standing by in all regions of the world in case something were to happen to keep us safe. So let's back the clock up a little bit. Those of us that were alive during 9/11, a lot of us don't forget. And if you ever have a chance to go to New York City, go to Ground Zero. Go to where the Twin Towers were and take a look, and it's very sombering to see how vulnerable we were at the time and what was struck against us. I highly recommend it. It is hollow ground at this point to go and see what happened at that time. It's a part of our history. It is tragic, but yes, it is part of history. And it shaped a lot of things. A lot of us that were in the service at the time prepared for worst case scenarios. Then this happened. So our lives changed forever. Your lives are now changed because of this significant day that happened several decades ago. So in this case here, I was only maybe 3 years in the Night Stalker's 160th. I started out as a mechanic. I started out as enlisted. I was a PV, nothing private. Worked all the way up to staff sergeant. And I will tell you, this is why I became a warrant officer, because here was my rank structure. I went E1, E2, E3, E4, E3, E4, E5, E6, and then warrant officer. So yes, I was demoted. So I got in trouble, and it was because I was on a softball team, and I had duty, and I played softball instead of going to duty, and the first sergeant didn't like that. So so learn from your lessons. So not all lessons are positive. Some you learn from that are harder than others. But at this time, I was in the 160th. We were ready for anything and everything. In fact, the #1 counterterrorism force for the U.S. military was overseas when this happened. And it was just by chance. We had to hurry and get back home to figure out what was going on, to figure out how we were going to retaliate. And so when we started looking at bringing justice to those that brought down our towers and killed nearly 3,000 people in a matter of minutes, we started looking at the areas in Afghanistan. We understand that terrorists were being harbored there, and once again, they're being harbored there again. And you guys know that there's a lot of stuff going on in Iran. There's a lot of stuff in the Levant. So this whole area in Central Command, when you pursue a career in the military, Central Command is probably a place where you're going to visit and perform missions or perform some sort of operations there. And in this case here, Afghanistan was landlocked. There was no easy way to get into Afghanistan to find the terrorists that brought down our Twin Towers. So we had a ship down here. We were performing those missions. The one that was in the video, that was a 14-hour mission. So the time that we took off from the ship, inserted the ground forces, came back, and then waited an hour for them to prosecute the objective area. It was another hour later. We were only on the ground for maybe 7 minutes total for that entire evening. 7 minutes of the 14 hours. The rest of it was in flight, no moon, it was dark, and getting fuel while we were in the air. So that was a very long mission. That was the longest air assault in U.S. military history with helicopters. The Doolittle raid that happened in Midway and all that, that was the longest raid for airplanes of that nature. This was the longest helicopter air assault in U.S. It still remains the same. Now, the longest mission conducted by a helicopter was the same vicinity coming up, even further to the north to rescue some U.S. hostages. And Dana Carey, Red Cross, and that was a 15.1-hour evening. And it is, just try staying in a seat for 15.1 hours and flying and communicating. All that, that's a very long night. So you've heard of the horse soldiers? You've heard of 12 Strong, the movie? You guys, I'm sure you've seen it. If not, actual aircraft from the 160th flew in that to help make the movie. I was down there helping orchestrate that. So they were coming from the north, trying to find those that brought down our towers, and we were coming in from the south. Poppy fields over there. Anytime you're in Afghanistan, you don't know if you're going to have terrorists, you're going after the Taliban, you're going after other extremist groups, or you're landing in a farmer's field that is harvesting poppy for opium, for drugs. So everybody's shooting at you. They don't know, you're just bad. They don't know if you're here to cut down their fields, because every time you land, the rotor wash from the Chinooks just decimates the field. And so they're upset with us. So everybody's shooting at you this time in late fall of 2001. We did have the opportunity to aid in the process of repatriating Hamid Karzai, which was the president of Afghanistan at the time, and for many, many years to come. If it wasn't for U.S. forces to help capture him and push him back in, he would not have been president for Afghanistan. Who knows where Afghanistan would have been today. So here's just some footage, some actual Rangers coming in out of the sky that were coming in on airborne operation while we were coming in for a rotor wing. We call it a helicopter or rotor wing assault. But we knew that there was one terrorist that was responsible for the funding and the financing, the funding, the planning of everything for 9/11. And it was Osama bin Laden. We knew that he was in Afghanistan. We knew that he was in certain valleys very similar to this. He was in similar valleys like this. We'd gone after him multiple times. More and more times, we were getting closer and closer. And then finally, this here was the actual last mission where we knew Osama bin Laden was deep in Afghanistan. And we missed him because it was so dark, and you could see how steep and extreme this terrain is. That's a Pennsylvania National Guard, by the way. Just to let you know, National Guard are some of the most professional soldiers that are out there. That's the Pennsylvania National Guard bringing in U.S. Navy SEALs and Rangers to the top of that roof, so that way they can go there during the day. We went in the night, and we just missed bin Laden. We just found out. And so this was in about 2006. For 5 years, it was cold. It was cold, and we didn't know exactly where he was until late 2009, early 2010. We had an analyst who found where his residence was deep into in Pakistan. You guys, have you seen the movie Zero Dark 30? That's a very good. If you've seen it, that's from the intelligence side, and it's very accurate from what I know and what I can tell you. But very accurate if you want to go see it. It is a good portray of what actually happened for the lead up to find bin Laden, who was in here. So what we found out was this is where he had been for 4 or 5 years. He had lived on the 3rd floor. His family was here. His lieutenant and his security was here. This here was just a trash bin and just a pen for the animals. And this is where his garden was. But it's unusual to have, everybody has satellites over there. Satellite dish, satellite TV, especially with electricity at every place. Every place, especially in Afghanistan, now has satellite. But this was particularly unusual because the traffic, the patterns in and out just was unusual. So our analyst that briefed us on this really explained where he was at. So what do as special operations? We plan, we rehearse, we plan again, we rehearse over and over and over. And the number one contingency, the things that go wrong that you try to prevent, was a helicopter crashing on the objective area. And so when you see this compound here, this here is the actual table model that we use to pick up to go to the West Wing and brief President Obama on how we're going to conduct this mission. And I want to just share the humor with this. So you have the President of the United States, you have the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, you have the Vice President, you have the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Secretary of Defense, all in this room. You have Admiral McCraven, you have the SEAL King Commander, and there's me as this warrant officer standing behind them, thinking, how in the heck did I ever find myself in the West Wing briefing the most powerful leaders in the nation? And it's because we're explaining how we're going to do this. The U.S. Air Force was briefing. They were going to drop 50 2,000-pound bombs on this compound, and it was only going to affect this little area right here. And that's a lot of ordnance. One 2,000-pound bomb will actually decimate the entire command, let alone 50. So they had 50 prepared. It got really quiet. So the Secretary of the Air Force, General Schwartz at the time, briefed the president that, and it was really quiet. And I'm back there behind Admiral McCraven. You could hear a pin drop, and I go, I kind of laughed. They all looked at me, and I had that look like my career's over. I'm done. I got to pack, go home. What's that truck driver's license, the class? That's right, 88 Mike. The president looked at me, and he goes, that's kind of what I was thinking. And he said, Bill McCraven, what do you soft guys want to do? And then we got the mission from that. So not because of the smirk from the warrant officer in the corner, but it was really a good mission. We were sound, and it was the most effective way to go in there and make sure that we had him himself. So this is the actual table. It's sitting somewhere in D.C. right now on display. You can't go see it, unfortunately. But so what happened was we planned, rehearsed. We took our aircraft in. We ended up having a total of 4 aircraft. I was orchestrating the mission, but I was there as the flight lead to make sure nothing happened. A Chinook is very big and very loud. So a very loud aircraft to be first into the objective area is probably not a good thing. So you grab a smaller aircraft that's a little bit more quiet. So I was only minutes behind. This scene right here that some of you may have seen before is in a situation room in the West Wing of the White House. And what happened was they had information, they just found out that a Black Hawk went down and crashed on Osama bin Laden's compound. That is the gasp from the Secretary of State. That's the concern with the President and Vice President. That's that picture. That's that moment of when that helicopter crashed on the objective area. Just to put some context of what happened. So when that aircraft came in, it was supposed to rope up here. Ended up, it was so hot. When a Navy SEAL tells you they weigh 200 pounds, put them on a scale. They probably weigh 240, 250 pounds because with all their gear and their ammo, they probably have an extra power bar or something in there. Just keep in mind that they're much heavier than expected. So they end up crashing here because they lost lift. But to the testament of the pilots are phenomenal special ops pilots, and they ended up putting the aircraft down without injuring anybody. The SEALs went into action. They jumped out of the helicopter and went straight in. Breaching, when I say breaching, you're talking dead core, C4, very large breach. If you want to be Navy SEAL, I highly recommend it. There's also the Army Special Operations, which I highly recommend as well. But they came through. Some SEALs came over here, captured and eliminated several of the security down in this area, and moved all the way to the top. So if you watch Zero Dark 30, you will see that there are a very explicit the portion of this, and they go in great detail of that. And I'll just leave those details into that portion of it. But when the SEALs were finished, they came in and asked us, there's a helicopter that's not usable anymore. So anybody want to go EOD? Anybody want to blow things up? Anybody heard about that? There you go. They are not right. EOD individuals are not right. No, but I will tell you, they have saved our lives over and over. When you ask an EOD tech, Explosives Ordnance and Demolition, to rig a helicopter to blow it up, to not to be seen, just because you're going to blow it up, they use an awful lot of explosives. Way too much than what should have been used. So when I came in with the Chinook to come in right through here to land, I was about here when that thing blew up. It actually pushed the Chinook helicopter, which is a 50,000-pound aircraft, off to the side and a mushroom cloud about 200, 250 feet in the air. Way too much explosives. So when the mushroom cloud subsided, came back around in a circle and landed right here and picked up all the SEALs that were on the objective area. So on the way back, you think that the mission's done. We're high-fived. No, we still have an hour-plus flight to get back to Afghanistan. On the way home, we were engaged by Pakistani F-16s. They had no idea what was going on. We didn't tell them. They're at an armistice, a ceasefire war with India, and so this is happening close to India. So they think that they're scrambling jets to find out what's happening coming from India. So they try to shoot us down 3 times. And through maneuver and through electronic warfare, we're able to defeat them and get back into Afghanistan. So the one thing you'll never hear me say, except for tonight, is when we came back to Afghanistan, I told everybody in the back, I said, hey, we are safe. It feels good to be back in Afghanistan. And that was the one time and the only time I've ever said that, because Pakistan was pretty violent and they wanted to shoot us down. So, and when we came back into Afghanistan, you think Pakistani Air Force is proficient? Anybody want to fly jets? Anybody want to fly fast movers? When we came back into Afghanistan, the most scared we were the entire evening is when we were confronted by the U.S. Air Force. U.S. F-15s were now starting to pop up on radar to shoot us down because we weren't supposed to be there. Coming back in Afghanistan, it's an intruder. Their ROE, rules of engagement, is to shoot down an intruder coming back in. So that's when it came to, we had to break radio silence, talk to them, and let them know who we were, and came back in. So the rest of the story I could tell you offline, but it's such a rewarding and highlight part of the career. Not the most dangerous mission for the evening, but it was the most important, let alone for the ones that we, when we're saving lives as a Army aviator, special operations aviator, there were so many other missions that were more violent. So when it was all said and done, they, in the base of Tower 1, within the agency and other DoD agencies, there was a setup, a museum for the hunt for bin Laden that happened, and we made a History Channel episode. It's a 1-hour episode. It's with the president. You'll see some of us in there. I highly recommend looking at it. You could follow along, and you'll be able to see some of the rest of the story as well, of what was cleared to talk about, and us as a collective group, we were able to explain it. The biggest thing was, after we got him in May 1st, was that it wasn't the end of the war, but it was now an end of an era, and we started pushing forward, and things started moving forward. So I want to stop there. I want to talk about that mission, but the other mission in the video is one that's more theatrical, it's more of a production, and it has actual footage from Afghanistan during the mission. But if we're good, we'll take a few Q&A. If you guys have any questions specifically about this, I'll be happy to answer them within reason, if I'm allowed to. But if you have any questions, are there any questions about this mission and about Osama bin Laden? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Adrian Rome. I'm a United States Coast Guard scholar. And I just wanted to know, when you were there, did you think you were going to die? What was going through your mind?
Okay, there were several members that actually thought that. So it was, several members thought. I personally did not, because I was the lead planner for several months, and I knew what the intel was. And not that I thought I was going to die, but you prepared to. You prepared to get captured. Could have been a one-way mission. If we would have crashed and had to then disperse and try to make our way home, there really aren't too many friendly or sympathizers of the U.S. military in Pakistan, especially in certain areas in that time of the conflict. So what you do is you make sure that you don't have on you that can compromise you. Like you have pictures of family members and kids, things like that can be used against you if you get captured and you get tortured and you get interrogated for the things that you were doing. So those are the things that were more concerning, was not that we were going to die, but the worst fear in any service member's back of their mind is to get captured, because you're going to be interrogated into who knows what extent to get that information out of you. But there were a few SEALs that were very concerned. They thought it was a one-way trip. Yep. And while you bring the microphone back there, I did have the opportunity to actually exhume and pallbearer his body. And how that happened, is as morbid as that sounds, when we were back in Afghanistan and we were at one station, we pulled his body bag out because we brought him back, put him on a C-130. They were waiting for me, and I jump on the C-130, and all the SEALs are there, and I get on board. They were waiting for me because I was the last one, because I got to shut the aircraft down, and get on the aircraft, and I'm sitting in the middle of the aircraft, and they're showing me all the cool videos. They're like, it's like their Instagram. It's like, look what we did. Look what on the target. They're showing all the footage and stuff. It was pretty cool. And I asked them, I go, so where's he at? And they put a white light on, and they're like, you're sitting on him. And rigor mortis is sat in, so I felt like, I was on a stool. So I got an extra one in there. And so I had the privilege of sitting on his body. Didn't know it. It was kind of gross, but good thing. So I won't talk about the odor or anything. But anyways, what's your question?
Good afternoon. I'm Cadet Cassiano. I'm an ECP cadet. My question is, how fast was the withdrawal system or the withdrawal process, and did it go as planned?
The withdrawal process, like coming out of?
Yes.
Coming out of, off the objective area after we're finished and we're coming back?
Off the objective and going back to Afghanistan.
Okay, it's about an hour. And when I say it's an hour, a helicopter only flies about 150 mile an hour. And an F-16 flies a lot faster than 150 mile an hour. And what I mean by that is they are going so fast to hit something very slow. We think when you're flying 150 mile an hour at 50 feet off the ground, you are going super fast. But it's, you take yourself out and put you at 10,000 feet, the F-16 is looking at us and we're barely moving. He's like, this guy thinks he's going fast. So it's, you have to use electronic measures, you have to use equipment that we are constantly modernizing just for those facts. Now, I am very fortunate. I'm a regional director for an aerospace company that's making, have you heard of that new aircraft that's going to replace all the Blackhawks? That thing flies about 400 mile an hour versus 150 mile an hour. So imagine acting like a helicopter and flying 400 mile an hour. That's on the horizon to fix those types of things that, that the military has. Now, I will tell you, we get back to Afghanistan, repatriate, go through everything that we found, and finally get home. It took a couple days. It took a couple days. And that was one of the 42 tours that I completed when I was over in Afghanistan. Good question. Any more questions?
Good evening. My name is Cadet Rainier, and I'm a Gypsy cadet. And I was wondering if when you were on the mission, you were stressed, and if so, how did you deal with it?
Okay, stress is a really good question. I had the opportunity of being a little bit older, so my first combat experience is when I was in my early 20s as a door gunner in Operation Provide Comfort. And that's in northern Turkey, coming in from northern Turkey into southern Turkey into northern Iraq. And we would get shot at every once in a while. And as a door gunner, you see it coming at you, you just react. It's duty. I will tell you, training is the number way to overcome acute combat stress. You have to create some sort of habit, some instinct, and training is the only way to do it. And as much as you feel like you're getting yelled at when you're going through combat training, it's for a purpose to raise the stress level to a level to try to mimic it would be in combat. I will tell you, that was the only time I ever got scared when I was returning that fire. When we started in Afghanistan in 2001, I was older, and I had troops to take care of. I had crew chiefs, we had ground forces. There was a time I ended up with 38 bullet holes in the aircraft when we landed back on the ship. The ship almost didn't let us land because we're leaking fuel. And it gets to the point where when you have duty, honor, and country in your heart and in your training, getting shot at and something like that happens, it just makes you mad. It just makes you upset because you're like, how dare them shoot at me? We're going to come back with twice as much fury and we're going to get after them. Now, I will tell you, that may not be healthy when you retire and you're finished because, but I will tell you, it does. There is a switch that kicks on. There are a few of my teammates that didn't handle it very well. And then they end up retiring or getting out of the service because they couldn't handle it. So everybody handles stress in a different way. But each one of you, next to you, left and right, going through college now, or when you enter the service, use your teammates, use your buddies, because that's how you're going to get through that stress. And I had a co-pilot next to me and another pilot with me and the crew chiefs in the back that buddies for life. And so that's how you get over the stress in some cases. You don't want to let them down. Good question. Sir?
I'm sure there were a lot of moving parts and hundreds of soldiers involved in the planning. With all the rehearsals that you had to go through, how do you keep all that secret until the mission is executed?
So when it comes to classified information, sometimes it's a need-to-know basis. And if you really need to know, you keep it at a very, very small number of individuals. We were able to keep it at a very small number of individuals for months and months and months until we were ready to actually go and do the mission. We only brought in the ground force and the rest of the crews until about 2 weeks prior. And basically, you can lock down. You will experience that if you start doing operations that has sensitivity to it, and you don't want the enemy to know about it. You will see some control measures in place. No phones, no Wi-Fi devices, things like that, and it's going to be an extensive background check on who you are and how you're raised. It all dovetails into that. But really, when you get into a highest level mission like this, it's only down to a few people that really, truly know. And sometimes it may be just the president and the cabinet and a few planners. That's it. So there are things like this that are going on all the time to keep us safe, and secrecy is the utmost importance. And that's all further. I'll go in detail with that one.
When you were flying out of Pakistan and you're flying against F-15s, how did you defend yourselves in helicopters?
So an F-16. So anybody going into the Marine Corps? Any Marine? They got one. There's not even two of you? All right, there's two. All right, we got two. Okay, so me as a 33-year Army veteran, retiree now, I owe my life to the training I received from the Marine Corps. I went to, it's called Weapons Tactics Instructor, where you learn how to go air-to-air combat from a helicopter to another helicopter in a nose-to-nose conflict. Like you would with a Russian helicopter. So I'd fly in my Chinook and a Russian helicopter from, it's U.S., but, and we go in dogfights and we try to evade that Russian helicopter. Then I'll fly in the Russian helicopter and try to shoot ourselves down. Then there's a point where I'm flying in a Chinook helicopter and an F-5 is like a T-38 will jump over the ridge line as you're coming home. And you have to then go nose to nose with that fast mover. Now, he's flying at, 650 mile an hour, and we're flying at our 150 mile an hour. So you're not going to outrun them. So rate of closure, if you try to go nose to nose, there's electronic measures, and that's all I'll say that that'll help out to help us survive. But the biggest thing is if you can get up against a fixed wing and make their dive so steep, sometimes they have to break off. And once they break off, that's when you try to get out and try to get in the clutter and try to get down as low as you can so you can't be seen. The other part is we have miniguns. Miniguns shoots about 4,000 rounds a minute. And believe it or not, if you have tracers and stuff, that will scare any jet pilot, especially if you're getting close and close, where you turn the helicopter and you shoot up and it's in that direction. And it's a tracer every 5 rounds, and it's 4,000 rounds a minute. That's a lot of tracers coming up towards that jet, and that jet's going to probably peel away sometimes. But there's other measures, and I won't mention it, but that's just kind of the rudimentary ways to do it. Any other questions? We'll go.
How long did you know that bin Laden was in that compound, and was he ever seen outside of the compound?
Well, when you go to the movie, and I'll try to quote the movie so I can stay within the boundaries of things, but when you look at the compound, he was considered the mover because he would strut back and forth, come out, and that was his only time of daylight. He'd been there for 4 or 5 years, and our analyst knew the Osama bin Laden's family and bloodline better than the analyst knew their own family. Their own personal family. That's how in-depth this analyst was with bin Laden. So kudos to those that give up their lives and get into the intelligence world to actually go after and try to find these people. But it was several months to almost a couple years that this analyst had suspected that bin Laden was here. If that answers your question. Okay, one more question, and then we'll get to the last mission. Because the last mission, I think you're going to find exciting. Last 2 questions. One back here. Did you have one, sir? Back here, and then one up with you over here, sir. Or we'll go in reverse order.
You referred to the, on the initial assault, of losing a Black Hawk. I seem to remember the pictures being a little bit different.
They were U.S. Army helicopters. All four were U.S. Army helicopters. This one here was blown up and could not fly it home. Yep, but they were all U.S. Army helicopters. Do you need a microphone to ask your question? Can you hear me, sir? I can hear you.
Good evening, sir. My name is Cadet Joseph Lim. I'm an Air Force Academy scholar. My question is, during planning, why did the government utilize a SEAL team rather than using a combat precision strike team?
That's a really good question. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it has to do who the commander is at the time for the who the commander is of the theater, of the area, or who's available at the time. I will tell you, you're talking about Army Special Operations and Navy SEALs. They work on rotational basis. I will tell you, prior to 9/11, Navy SEALs mostly stuck to littoral, maritime, those types of missions, and then you had the Army Special Operations that really stuck to land base. All game was off because we needed all Rangers, we needed Army Special Operations, Navy SEALs, we needed all of them for this. And in this case here, the Navy SEALs were the ones that were on the clock. They were the ones that were available, and they picked the A team. It's not that they just picked the best of the best to be part of that unit. They even handpicked the best of the SEALs of that organization to do this mission. We did the same thing for our aviators and our crew members. We picked the most talented aviators and crew members, air mission commander, all that stuff to actually conduct the mission. But in this case here, they were the most available, and they were off-cycle, and they weren't employed in country. But I will tell you, you could have given this mission to any of those special operations that are in country right now. Give them 24 hours, they will be able to plan this type of mission. They're that good. They don't need months and months to prep. Like I said, we only gave them 2 weeks to prep this. Okay, if we could roll to that next brief, please. And before you go to it, this I'll conclude with this this last brief, but it's very theatrical. So this is now only 3.5 months after I conducted had the privilege of being the flight lead for the Operation Neptune Spear. 3.5 months coming down. You can imagine being on the high of this mission. That should be the pinnacle. That should be the one mission where you can go home, slap the table, and say, "I'm done. You know, my career's over." Well, I was back over in Afghanistan 3.5 months later to conduct this mission I'm about ready to show you, which kind of highlights the danger, the fear, the camaraderie, the calmness, the training, the professionalism. And I will tell you, it'll express the utmost willingness for a service member to risk their lives to save another service member. We could talk about it's about honor and country, but I guarantee you, when you are in a combat situation, you are protecting your fellow service members left and right. Now, when you come home, you can feel the glory and you can feel the camaraderie and the patriotism, all that stuff, but it's about your soldiers that are left and right, and your airmen, Marines, and sailors that are left and right of you. That's what counts. That's what I want to bring up this. So if we can start that, please. So this was back same year, just September, and what I mean by a night, this was not the typical night. This is where we had 7 Chinook helicopters, special operations. You see this is a special operations aircraft, inserting Special Operations Forces. We had flown from sundown. We conducted a mission, put in like 117 Afghan forces, U.S. forces to go for village stability. We come back. We found Special Forces are in distress. Their camp is being overrun. AC-130 is shooting. We go up there to reinforce them, bring in vehicles. We get shot at. We have aircraft that are shot up. We have to repair them battlefield-wise. And we finally are done with the night. We're finally done thinking we're going home. And we get this distress call. We get this call as the sun's coming up. Now, when the sun's coming up, no helicopters want to fly in 2011, want to fly at all in the Panjwai area. It is the most dangerous area in Afghanistan because you will get shot down. And that's where we're going. And so we got the distress call. And so we're not going to let a teammate down. Bill Golden, at the time, was our boss. And he said, it's up to you. It's too risky if you guys accept it. And I looked over at Major Beale at the time. He's now Lieutenant Colonel. And he was in the other aircraft. I'm like, what do you think? And he goes, let's do it. And so we went into Panjwai, right in the middle of the day. This is what the map looks like. Kandahar, doing all of our missions. We're coming back. And what happened was, it was a Special Forces, Green Beret team, had an EOD tech. Where's our EOD wannabe? The EOD tech is the one that stepped on an improvised explosive device and lost his leg. It was blown from below the knee. Profuse bleeding, could not control the bleeding. If they weren't going to be medically evacuated at the time, that EOD tech, that soldier was going to expire. And so that's what happened here, and we went there to go after it. So this is what the area looks like. These are large berms. When I say the berms, from the ground, they're about 10 to 15 feet tall. They are extremely tall, and they grow poppy, and that's how they grow their fields, because wind erodes everything. All these buildings, there are no friendlies in any of these buildings at all. They would love to shoot a service member. They'd love to shoot a helicopter.
Working on hoist extraction at this time versus landing over. It'll be faster.
Affirmative. Litter patient. Possible amputee right leg. You're going to stay down on the trees. Keep moving, keep moving. Keep the speed up. I got no visual. I got 0.1 out from here. Searching. No joy.
Look out your left side, north of that tree line.
Left side. Roger, coming left. Look at no joy. Still no visual.
Smoke out your right door on the other side of that tree line.
Clear right. Visual right. Yeah, roger, visual. There it is. There's a tree line bringing forward. Keep your altitude. Forward. Hold your altitude. Don't get too close to the trees. Roger. You're sliding. You're turning. You're decoupled. The radar altimeter's dead. He is not in a extractable litter, sir. He's in a standard litter. We cannot hoist this.
Hey, if you put me down in this rescue seat, I can bring him up.
Okay, we have found the patient. We're going to have to put the medic down on the hoist to get the patient. Good copy.
So let me just bring it to life. That's actual footage off of our FLIR, forward-looking infrared camera and TV and stuff. That's the actual audio that we pulled from the aircraft, and we rendered everything so we can animate, so you can have a visualization of what happened. So what happened was when we came on station, we were engaged significantly by, so the ground force had walked across that tripper, or that tripwire, and alerted all the enemy in the area. So they knew and they were ready. That was their tactic, is to lure in helicopters, and sure enough, we took the bait. So as we were coming in, we knew the ground force was here. It was very hard to find. So when you hear the voices, you'll hear the ground force, you'll hear myself, you hear the pilots from the aircraft that are flying. and kind of bring it to realization of what actually happened that day. So we came in on station, found out, can't land. Like I said, those berms are so high. And when you hear that one that said, hey, sir, hoist me down, that's the medic. That's the medic that says, hey, put me on the ground. I know this area is hot. Put me on the ground. I want to save his life. I want to pull him up. And that's exactly what they did. So once again, we were the only two aircraft. There was a changeover. There was no AC-130 because it's daytime. There's no A-10s at the time. We were the only ones. So I ended up becoming a support by fire platform with those miniguns, and it's going to get a little more intense here a little bit. So as we pushed forward, we knew that we had to hoist and then move forward to extract this. So there's Chalk 2 that's here with the ground force, and I was in the lead aircraft when we were flying around. And I will tell you here in a little bit about those miniguns. Over.
See that field in front of you? Come on. Roger. Field, you moved that patient to the field that we're heading towards. It looks good. All right. I'm starting info. You call me down. Roger. Clear down. Clear down lips.
Say again, I couldn't hear you.
06, move to the location where we're landing to pick up.
Roger.
Ramps down. Roger.
Clearing at this time, moving towards you.
Poppy field. So now we're upsetting the poppy growers. So getting into it, then we started really getting engaged because the enemy knew where they were at. They could triangulate them. They had mortars, they had RPGs, and they were throwing everything they could to get after this aircraft.
We're doing a sweep. We're doing a 360 sweep right now. Guns, standing guns. Roger. Roger.
Contact from the east.
Contact from the east, guys.
Still moving. Still moving.
Yeah, Roger. Stand contact from the east. Hey, they're taking contact from the east. We're not moving at this point. Dock coming around. Explosion 3 o'clock. Roger. Point 2. Another explosion 3 o'clock. Point 2. Hey, we're taking fire down here on the target. So point 2 out from our aircraft at our 5 o'clock. 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Another explosion 3 o'clock. Roger. From the mortar round, one big guns. Stay vigilant. Keep on security. We're here with the package. Package is 6 o'clock, 50 meters. Stand in and move in this direction. Roger. I got a couple rounds. It's a point 2 out the right door. 9-4. Have your M4 ready, sir. It's on your side. Yep, got it. And everybody get ready to freaking defend. Roger. The litter's behind a wall under the rudder disc. We just leave cover fire at the east, and it's appear to be stopped right now. Copies all. All the fires coming from our 6 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Point 2 appear to be possible mortar rounds, possible RPGs. Ineffective, and casualties moving toward our ramp this time.
So as lead,
Stay on it. They could be.
when they were on the ground, we found who was shooting at them, and we ended up running out of ammunition on the left side of the aircraft. We had to start making right turns because we had to shoot out of the right side of the aircraft so we could rearm all the guns on the left side. And so then things kind of calmed down a little bit, and then
Stay on it. They could be crawling up right there on you. Roger. Roger. got it here. I'm going straight forward, sir. Stand by. We got two team members as well, but hold on.
2, give us the time count. We're coming out. We'll stand by on the way up.
8-2, will do. I gotta let the team members off. Roger. Call when you guys are ready. Wrapped up. Map ready, forward ready. Coming out at this time, coming out at this time. Watch your 6, boys. Looking good.
2, thanks for the workout. Shitty situation. Good job, good job.
So standard day in Afghanistan, in the Panjway, not typical. This is the last slide I have. So it was I want to just point out a couple things. Casualty ended up surviving. So that was September. He was able to enjoy Christmas with his 1-year-old. So and we still meet with him every once in a while. So he's without a leg, but he's alive. He would have bled to death if we hadn't gone after him. So forces suppressed or killed, I won't say the number. The number was pretty high. From the time that the IED, once that EOD tech stepped on that trigger, he was in the Kandahar hospital being treated. We happened to be in the right place, right time, and taking a risk. Dishkas of 50 cal RPGs, mortars were thrown our way. We expended more than 8,000 rounds of Mini 7.62. That's a lot. And we didn't receive a single fire. Don't know how. And then the Special Forces team continued on with their mission. By that time, they had air cover, and then they kept walking through, and then they cleared the villages that were shooting at them. They said they came across a lot of the areas, the bad guys they've been looking at and trying to find for months, if not years. They come across them, and we're the ones who got them from the air. So we got a few thank yous. Say, hey, we wanted to get them, but you guys got them. So that was the end of the mission. But that concludes really all that I want to share with you. I appreciate the time. Sir, thank you, and it truly is a pleasure to talk to each and every one of you. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. That was awesome. You did great. Too long? No, it's perfect. You're right on time. You did great. You did great.
So right now I've got Lieutenant General Caldwell. Sir, come on over here to my right. And Kalina, if you would, stand. Go ahead to the middle. So Doug, a token of our appreciation is a numbered print by the artist Stuart Brown. It's on the screen behind you now. I hope that this doesn't scare you when you look at this print on your wall.
No.
But we feel it's very appropriate to capture the essence of what you spoke about today, is Army Special Operations helicopters extracting Army Special Operations soldiers from the mountaintops of Afghanistan. So Doug, thank you for giving us your time. I know it's not easy. You probably get called a lot to come do this kind of thing, and we very much appreciate you coming to our little town to enjoy our little chapter in our Georgia Military College and enlighten these wonderful youth from this organization and this college. So thank you for all that you've represent, all that you've done, and for showing up here today to do this. So please.
If I could.
Okay.
Yeah, listen, to all of our kids, do you mind raising the lights for a second, please? To all these young men and women out here, they actually wanted to go to the Coast Guard, the Air Force Academy, Naval Academy. There's a few that wanted to stay in the Army and just be ground pounders. I got a feeling tonight every one of them are going to want to be an Army aviator. So I don't know, Doug, you probably made one of the best pitches ever tonight for why you want to think about what you want to do with your life. So for all you all, this is actually an incredible opportunity, and this gentleman here who's been very, very, humble tonight about his own career, he himself could get up here and talk like that tonight, having led the Night Stalkers. So I tell you, we're really blessed tonight to have two true combat leaders standing up here on this stage with us tonight. So let's give them a big round of applause.
addition to that wonderful print, we're giving you the coveted yet elusive, in high demand, EAA Chapter 1685 ball cap, Special Operations Black, of course, okay, and a sticker for 1685 too, to proudly display on your rental car on the way home. So, again, sir, thank you, Kalina, thank you for what you all represent. This is exactly what this organization's design is to do, and I think we did it in spades. So, again, one more round of applause for Doug. And we look forward to seeing many of you out there tomorrow at the Young Eagles event. Even if you're not one of the chosen 27, we can aspire to get you on in the fall. But if you'd like to just come out and watch, you're absolutely welcome to do so. So thank you again. And this ends our wonderful night, and we hope to do this again here in another few months. So take care, everybody. Get home safe. It is Friday night. That's your safety briefing, right? Good. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Well done, Lindy.
Good, good.